right, so for this story time, we are going to be chatting with Bharat Midha. Uh, he is a UIC student majoring in computer science, and he has had a couple of internships at Microsoft that he's going to chat a little bit about. And it's kind of an interesting one because he has some experience in both a regular internship and then also having a remote internship this past summer. And then he has also accepted a full-time role as a software engineer after he graduates. And so he talks a little bit about that as well. So enjoy. All right, so we have Bharat Midha here today to chat with us. He's a UIC student. So let's start with just a quick introduction.
Hi, my name is Bharat. I am a senior doing CS, um, and um, yeah, um, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So
Yeah,
let's start with the internship, maybe.
okay. Okay. Uh, should I repeat or?
No, no, you're fine.
Okay. Um, so I interned at Microsoft twice, and I have a full-time job lined up after next semester. And yeah,
So you accepted a full-time role at Microsoft starting in the summer of 21?
yes,
Is that correct?
I'm expected to start in August. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Does that mean do you do an internship in the summer and then move into full-time role? Is that how it works, or?
No, I'm going to graduate. I want to start as early as possible, but because I have to get authorization to
Oh, got
work,
it.
and because yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
that's actually
yeah.
probably something a lot of people are curious about. But so August is like the start date in Washington, right? What was the city again?
I'll be working in Redmond, Washington.
Hmm.
That's where the Microsoft headquarters is. It's right
Hmm.
next to Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start with you've worked on all sorts of interesting projects through your internship at Microsoft, but also different side projects you've worked on. So
hmm
let's start with the internship project SharePoint. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you used some stuff from 251 in it?
Okay. So during both of my summers, the last 2 years, I worked on a product called SharePoint, which is a part of uh, the uh, the enterprise office suite. Organizations use it to create internal websites, manage documents and files. Um, and I worked on I mainly worked on implementing new features um, and also rewriting a lot of old code to make it perform better and to just have it uh, mainly to work on performance and security. And um, uh, some of the 251 concepts, which I used a lot, uh, were all based around graphs. Uh, Pretty much all the weird data structures that we learn in 251, linked list trees, everything just boils down to a graph, right? And uh, um, I worked a lot with graphs and working with DAGs uh, in SharePoint to see um, it's mainly for to or so DAGs
And
were
before
used.
you go on with DAGs, maybe define it because I don't think we use that acronym in the
Okay.
class.
A DAG is a directed acyclic graph. Basically, imagine a graph but doesn't have cycles in it. Uh, and um, Actually, part of the code that I wrote was to see if there are no cycles, just to do a verification. Although it can be very expensive to do that in terms of performance. Uh, DAGs are used all over the place in uh, basically every single piece of technology that you'll touch. Uh, Probably uses DAGs. Everything from network switches to, in my case, SharePoint. And uh, uh, besides that I used a lot of other concepts which are taught in 251, which is implementing a way to sort and uh, just move through a graph uh, to find what I'm looking for, perform insertions, deletions, and just working with the libraries which provide those features.
Yeah, and can you also talk a little bit? You had an interesting project that you worked on with ACM that also used DAGs, right? Wasn't it?
Hmm. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that too.
So um, um, yeah, if you've ever seen some kind of a network switch, you'll it's a very easy way to flood the switch if you just create a loop from one port to the other with one cable. And if you do that, the rest of the ports are basically unusable because it's a loop back. But when you work in large data centers, or just a switch which has a lot of ports and it's not cable managed, it's very easy to create loops. And a lot of enterprise switches will have technologies which is basically detecting cycles in graphs. So everything in your network should be a directed acyclic graph, but if there's a cycle on your switch, you can detect that with basically what you'll learn in 251 when you just move through a graph and see if there's a cycle, and then you can detect that, disable that port, and save the network. Uh, and we use concepts like this to design our infrastructure network at ACM, and that's what I've been working on these days.
ACM, as in the student chapter at UIC, right? So if
Yes.
anyone is kind of curious what kind of projects are being worked on, you guys have like different working groups. Is that one? Which one is that?
So that's under the SIG sysadmin, where we work
Uh,
on just system and infrastructure. Uh, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so now can you tell us a little bit about maybe what kind of interview problems you came across while you were interviewing? You interviewed at Microsoft, but also some other companies as well, and maybe just share some of your experiences with actual problems that you got.
Okay. Um, um, I've I've seen a lot of problems around trees and graphs in a lot of my interviews with Google, Microsoft, and um, uh, there are a few problems in particular which I found very interesting. Um, One of them was a very simple sorting problem, and where I was expected to implement a sorting algorithm, and um, so I decided to implement um, 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 my bad, I'm getting stuck on
Multi,
words.
yeah,
Yeah,
multi-level.
yeah. Um, so instead of just taking two ints and comparing them to see which one's greater and then just doing a regular sort,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to do a multi-level sort. Uh, so the gist of the problem was you have different balls and you're supposed to sort them, and after doing a back and forth, uh, I decided instead of just doing um, just sort the balls by size, I decided to create a struct with different properties of the ball, whether that be color, size, um, the shape, and so on. And um, then I decided to use those attributes and implement a sorting algorithm which used them to have to be uh, really uh, more usable. If you look at any data in a table, it's usually that you just click on the column header and it changes what it's sorted by, right? And you could use something like this to power that table. And you'll see this a lot in basically any interface that you design. If you have data, you need to have a way to filter and sort it. And multi-level sorts are great. And it really shows the interviewer that you're thinking about how this can be applied than just writing some code.
Yeah,
And
some default sorting algorithm.
yeah.
Yeah, I even when I did the mock interviews, a couple of them used like required a sort, and what I said is you should even ask if they want you to sort it at all, or if you should just say that you're going to call a function that sorts it. You know what I mean? Like not go
Hmm.
into the detail of the implementation. Um, but you had also mentioned that this whole concept, you had said that one of the things that really kind of got you to think this way is just this idea of developing your own abstract data types and your own types and
Hmm.
writing code this way, basically writing object oriented code, right?
Hmm. Um, One of the things which really changed how wrote code after 251, or just while taking 251, is to create abstract types for everything that I would do. Instead of having a few global ints, I would start creating structs or classes and making instances of those types to just organize data better in my app. Instead of having a couple arrays of ints which are supposed to be kind of like the same index maps to the same value that I'm looking at, I could put them in an array of structs, and that would make it a lot more readable and easy to add more features to, and and mainly easy to just find bugs.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any like last advice for 251 students as we wrap up here?
I would say that the one thing that really helped me, both in terms of learning more at school and and just trying to get a job, is side projects. Just trying to implement all the stuff I've learned, not just for the sake of implementing it, because I just wanted to make a cool app or just work on a student org project, and that I really got to implement a lot of the concepts I learned through all my classes so far. So if there's one thing that I would say is consider doing some side projects. Just find something that you're interested in and find like-minded people, and then make something cool. And whether that be with a student org or just with friends, it doesn't matter as long as you are uh, using the concepts to make something cool. It'll help you reinforce the concepts, and it'll um, also uh, just
Good for
encourage.
your resume too.
Yeah, and good for your resume. Like, uh, um, I used to be very self-conscious about my resume, where it just used to be like a lot of white space because I had no previous jobs or internships, and I didn't know what to put on there. So, uh, before I got my first internship at Microsoft, um, I started to do a lot more side projects, and then I added them to my resume.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. Really appreciate having you.
No problem. Thank you.
Mhm.